Hello televiewers, good evening and welcome to Prime Hour on My Media Prime. We this day are going to be looking at what transpired in Yaoundé with the elections of the president of the National Assembly, Honorable Cavaye was re-elected, as well as Niat Maxel was re-elected at the level of the Senate. We are also briefly going to talk about the former Tanzanian president who died yesterday. Africa was taken aback with that shocking news of the demise of President Pombe Magufuli, who is gone to join the likes of J.J. Rawlings and the former Ivorian Prime Minister in the person of Ahmed Bakayoko and a host of other statesmen in Africa. Many persons are asking the question as to whether it's befalling Africa. We also are going to be looking at the increasing immorality situation in most of our secondary schools in Cameroon. What is happening? Who is not doing their job? And if time permits, we are going to also talk about the outing of the French External Relations Minister, who is calling for discussions to begin between the government of Cameroon and separatists. We are going to be discussing this with panelists who already are seated in the house with us this evening. Our consultant is there, the person of Apostle Ambi Valentine Ngwa. Good evening, Apostle, and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Kum. Good evening, Cameroonians, and good evening, my co-panelists. We are in a mourning mood in Africa. We've lost one of the major heroes and giants of Pan-Africanism, John Pombe Magufuli. It's a very sad note for the continent Africa. May his soul rest in peace.
We are also going to be discussing alongside Professor Mark Anthony, who is a Pan-Africanist. A very, very sad day for Africa.
Indeed, Leo, it is a very sad day since yesterday when we received the news of the fall of this great hero of Africa, John Pombe Magufuli. It has been a sad period of time, and I want to say that that's one of those guys who, for the sake of the development of not only his country but Africa, he was willing to sacrifice a lot of things to make sure that he brings Africa to limelight. He's one of those who many challenge a lot of persons in order to meet up with success. And today, by him falling, most of us, we feel like Africa seems not to be moving ahead. Seems as if anytime a leader wants to rise up in Africa, death, the cold hands of death come along to take them away. And I want to greet fellow Cameroonians and Africans who are presently mourning for this great hero, and to my fellow panelists who are here. And good evening, Leo.
Okay, also with us is a lady. She's called Pachibel Feka. She is a rights activist, also leading an orphanage, very involved on issues, human rights activities, civil society activities, and a host of others. We're glad to have you with us this evening.
Thank you, Leo. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, my dear panelists. Today, I want to beg you, Leo, I will be here as a teacher.
Okay, as a teacher?
Yes, because what is going on in our schools this day is a call for concern. And so we have to start looking at the way forward. And we have to start accepting and assuming our responsibilities. Because it doesn't concern just the school. It doesn't concern just the children. It concerns everybody in the community.
So you are also a sad teacher this evening.
Very sad.
Okay, the kangaroo man is in the house with us. Fa Evistayo is here, representing the MRC party. Good evening and welcome.
Thanks very much, Leo. It's my pleasure making it here today. Greetings to the people of Gonoko Village, Royal Majesty Dr. Fomiki Waters, the people of Mbemi Village, His Royal Majesty Fonbabi, and greetings to Pa Azefo, who is in Limbe, watching us right away, and to a host of all others who are of the Victoria Cooperative Union watching us right away from the OPEC city in Limbe and round the world.
Okay, we are going to start with news from Yaoundé of the re-election of both Honorable Cavaye Jibril, they call him Right Honorable Cavaye Jibril, and Senator Niat Maxel, Apostle and B. Valentine Gua. Were you surprised when this news came knocking?
Surprise, Mr. Leo, is an understatement. You know, we live in a country where things don't take us again by surprise, because we're already used to the way events unfold here. That the re-elected is a misnomer. They were not re-elected, they were reappointed, because it will be an insult that people who are younger in the parliament, like the names you know, who see the future of a nation, who cast their vote to people who are signing out of life. Where are they leading us to? Because there's a time you lead a nation to fulfillment, there's a time you lead yourself to the grave. There are two different situations here. The persons in question, we have seen, they are no longer leading the nation, they are leading themselves to their final bus stop, entrusting the responsibility of a nation in the hands of people who can barely, first of all, walk. Talk less of signing documents, still remains a mirage. And this is part of the things that we are also mourning. We are not just mourning Magufuli. There are a lot of things that we have to mourn that is not even a funeral. It's not a funeral, but it looks like a funeral. That at the age where we are, young, vibrant people, both male and female in the nation, have come up with very brilliant ideas. Even if we don't love other political parties, let us look within the same political party where these people were elected. We have young, vibrant men like Honorable Ngara Gerard, who are vibrant and strong and active, and their works are speaking on ground. At least if I heard that it was the one that has been elected as the president of this National Assembly, and then somebody like Senator Henry Kemende, who is still strong.
There are people like Senator Ambila Mokichas
that could be elected as the president of the Senate. I would have had some level of peace. Let us consider there is only one party ruling this country. Let us operate within the circle of that party. These people, I remember the president of the National Assembly has been there since 1992 as the president of the National Assembly. Not as a member. He has been a president for 29 years and been a member for 47 years. How many years do we work in Cameroon to retire? So I'm somehow confused, and I'm too calm this evening, and I really want to go in this calm mood. Thank you, Mr. Leo.
Okay. Yes, your reaction to the re-election of these two presidents at the level of the Senate and National Assembly.
Mr. Leo, it's not a surprise that they came up again. They are going to die there.
Okay.
Yes, that's going to be.
They have to walk.
They walk till they are dead. It is part of their duty. So it's not something that we are surprised, because I can expect that somebody who can barely walk keeps on being re-elected, in quotes, or I should use the word reappointed, into a seat, knowing very well such an individual has little or nothing to contribute when it comes to his capacity to reason and think. Such persons need to have their time back home to rest. But they are being pulled on the streets to the National Assembly, to the Senate, to come and sit there just to play the figurehead, not as if they have something they can really contribute. And that is the reason why you see Cameroon not being able to make any strides ahead. It remains in one position. In fact, it's drowning, practically drowning, because of the kind of leaders we have. When they came into power, they were young. If you go back to 1972, when Cavaye actually was elected, or let's say brought in as a parliamentarian, he was a young man. He was not old. From 1972 till today, he is still in that house. For the past 29 years, he has been presented as the president of the National Assembly. The question is, why are they not actually electing young people? Is it like we do not have young persons in there who can actually contribute? Okay, let's not even talk of young. Are there not people between 50s and 60s who still have their reasoning capacity to contribute? Why can't such persons be brought in? When I saw what the Horizon actually presented about Lifaka and Tabetando, I laughed. I laughed because there is party discipline which is not going to permit them to even contest. Because if you look at the election, for those who covered it, they will tell you that there was practically no contest done. You had live candidates who appeared and were just simply elected by a overwhelming majority of over I think 147 persons out of 162. Overwhelmingly. Then 15 persons say we are not voting, and we can know that those 15 are coming from other political party, implying that out of the 16 opposition parliamentarians that were there, one voted for him. The rest 15 decided not to go in for election. So those are some of the things that when you see, you start feeling like Cameroon is going to take a long time to move ahead.
Okay.
Very long time.
Okay, Pashibe, when you follow the re-election of these two persons, do you have the impression that these positions have work to do? And if at all there is work to do, do these people have what it takes to fulfill that mission?
I think the Cameroonians have accepted that the young people are worthless, and have accepted that the old should be there and the country should keep going backward. The country does not stand a chance of any competition, development-wise, policies-wise, and all of that, because if they really wanted a change and they really were innovative, I don't think, truth be told, these people cannot be as dynamic as young people. They cannot. I was expecting to hear that maybe somebody like Noreen Foster was voted as Speaker of the House. That's a dynamic young woman. And why not somebody like Joshua Osi? Those are young people in the parliament, but unfortunately I grew up knowing Cavaye Yege, and I am getting old. He is still there, and he'll probably be there. Maybe I may even die before he even leaves. Who knows? So the country is definitely going to remain like that. Somebody like Niat Jifenji, I really don't know what his use is. I'm sorry. He's a human being, but he needs to rest. He can barely walk. He can barely do things on his own. So how is he going to manage that office? So Cameroonians are lying to themselves. They've accepted to remain where they are and not forge ahead and continue with the old lies that the youths are the leaders of tomorrow. They are the ones who have this country, whereas in reality, the youths have no say. I don't even want to talk about women, because we do not have a role. They have actually held on the adage that a woman's place is in the kitchen, and that is why nothing includes us.
You have the numbers. Why not elect a female president to also give you your positions? 50-50.
We all know what really happens. I really doubt if there is actually an election in Cameroon.
Okay, that's a different debate.
Yeah.
Now. Yes, Evis Tayon, you people refuse to go for elections, for parliamentary elections, but at least you are following up what is happening at the National Assembly. Are you surprised by the re-election of this president?
Well, let me start by saying greetings to the President-elect Professor Maurice Kamto, while calling on the release unconditionally of Professor Alain Froge, and also to our spokesman Bibo Nisak, and over 200 militants that are still in the dungeons spread across the country for simply exercising a civic right of denouncing wrong things in this nation. Well, you would realize that the election we find here is a call for concern. People have been blaming, why didn't you go for elections? People are gradually understanding. we had said in that very kangaroo system, if you like, bring political parties from Germany, Canada, Congo, South Africa, South Principe, and Totomi. In fact, call all the names. Just pick the names at random, as you see me calling. You will discover that you cannot effectively unseat this cabal until you put the right things in place. These are the effects. When we spoke, people thought that probably we had not foreseen. We foresaw these things. The oppositions who are there, what impact have they done? Obviously nothing, because as we get to know, there is absolutely no election, but there is reappointment. So before anything, the game has been leveled and played carefully. And with monies changing hands as you find this kind of election issues, that's why you see it just go just like that. So it is a sham. I've been very dampened, though I was not surprised about the thing. But my worry had been about the reactions I got in young sycophants of the party, let me use that very harsh word, still pushing that agenda that is a normal agenda. And I asked some of them, even as a young man like yourself, who has gone to school, so you don't even believe that you can lead. You don't even have confidence in yourself. You can see how the cultic system has been carefully built, so that the youths have been made to understand that they are not even fit to deliver any service to this nation, except the old guards, who must deliver until they quit the scene before we can even think of seeing the light of day. This is a sacrilege. As a matter of fact, I have looked at the entire system before that I knew that the same scenario will occur. And that's why I said that anybody who dreams that these people were chosen or representing the people is a lie. Parliamentarians, you are representing your stomachs. Senators, you are representing your stomach there in Yaoundé. I don't even know how you put it about. I don't even know. But this is the exhibit, because if we had people who represented people, it would have been a matter of making sure the right thing is done. You cannot tell me, Mr. Leo, that it has been in the way that people just sit, and when it comes for reappointment in the guise of re-election, the same people just fit in with ease. I mean, no opposition. You start asking yourself, whether do we even have oppositions even in the National Assembly? I told these opposition guys sometimes that you have a prerogative right to take a parliament or a senate hostage until the right things are done. But since as it's a whole ping-pong game, where a man stands there and says opposition, but at the same time eats fat with a ruling party, so at the end of it, Mr. Leo, we have what we call brothers and sisters of CPDM disguising in the National Assembly as opposition parties. That is the fact. And that's why you see, we say that the only opposition party in this country now is CRM. I will brag from here till tomorrow. And that is why we will not be playing that kind of gimmicks you find them doing in there, because their time is obviously off. You cannot hijack us. It's an impossibility to get us hostage with old unproductive brains. No, this thing will not work.
Okay, this thing will not work according to the CRM party. Apostle and B. Valentine Angwa, what is the role, the powers of the presidents of the National Assembly and that of Senate? Do we really see them stamping their mark, creating any impact in the lives of the common man? We've seen presidents of National Assemblies that when they come out, like the former president of National Assembly of Côte d'Ivoire, Guillaume Soro, you saw that when he comes, at least he could change things in the community. Do we have that same impression in the community?
The most dreaded person in every nation should be the president of the Senate and that of the National Assembly. But unfortunately, that's not the case with Cameroon. The National Assembly has the capacity, or the president has the capacity to convene meetings that can oust even a president. The president of the Senate also has the capacity to carry out decisions in the country that can affect even the executive bureau. But that is not the case in Cameroon here. Why? Because we always say that we have a presidentialist system of government whereby every power is centered around the executive. The legislative and the judiciary practically are just attachment to the executive bureau. They have nothing to offer. They are just there to eat and sleep. John F. Kennedy said it is very, very dangerous to take any decision after 4 p.m. because the human mind fails after 4 p.m. 4 p.m. in the evening. Now, according to the analysis of life, from 0 to 30 years is the morning of life. From 30 to 50 is the afternoon. from 50 and above is good evening. Our president of the Senate is in the good evening of life. Our president of the National Assembly, they are in the evening of life, which means at that level your brain doesn't function anymore to carry out something responsible. So how do you expect a nation that has resources, it has people, it has talent, it has potentials, it is being carried or driven by people whose faculties can no longer drive the nation to anywhere? A president of the National Assembly, I said there once that Kagame decided to stop ruling Rwanda. It was the president of the National Assembly that assembled the parliamentarians. They revamped the constitution and asked him to come in again. That's the same thing they wanted to do with John Pombe Magufuli for a third term. He refused. That is the influence the president of a National Assembly in a country has. When Guillaume Soro was the president of the National Assembly in Cote d'Ivoire, he could practically shake the tables in Cote d'Ivoire to the extent whereby youths were looking up to him. Guillaume Soro could cause any form of disorder in the country. That's what we're talking about, power of the legislature. Now, when we look at what is happening in Cameroon, if somebody does not merit a responsibility and they give it to him, such a person does not have the right. He doesn't have the influence. He does not have the authority that such an office carries. So to see the president of the National Assembly in Cameroon taking any practical decision that can change things for the betterment of the nation is a mirage. It can never happen.
Why?
Because the president of the National Assembly is not in the office based on meritocracy. He is in the office based on some political whims and caprices, some underground manipulations that keep maintaining them in the place of responsibility. Because why? They are submitted to an office. The fear is that someone else can come to that seat. I will not pay allegiance to the superior authority as he has been paying. So it is better I have this puppet always being there rather than bring somebody that will come to threaten my authority tomorrow. I rather deal with the devil I know than to look for an angel I do not know. So that is exactly what is happening right now. They don't want to introduce anybody new because they don't know.
Yeah, but let's look at the issue of fatigue. You see the president of the Senate you see the difficulty with which he works. Being the president of the National Assembly, he himself is tired. What is this notion where you ask others to go on retirement and then visibly the entire nation can see you very tired, yet you're working?
Mr. Leo,
is it a desire to deliver Cameroon from one bondage, or the desire to move Cameroon forward, or to do what Napoleon left undone?
Some people usually say that it takes at least 30 years to be able to fully execute a political project and program. I want to believe that if in case that was the particular ideology behind their stay in power, it would have been good. But from our own observation for the past 30 years, I have not been able to see any law that is helping Cameroonians to advance that these guys have been able to make. Then when it comes to fatigue, you can't tell me that a man of over 80 years is able to have the strength that a young man like Osi is still having. A young man like I'm quoting those who are inside the house.
A young lady like Noreen.
That's for you, because
Noreen is young.
You have other young
She's a woman.
Yes, let's say a young lady like Noreen. Yes. She want me to use that name.
Yes, she's
you
a
have
woman.
Young persons who are agile. Their reasoning faculties are still functional. But a man who is old, unable to walk, he is tired. I think that the best place for him to be is at home, to rest. Such a person needs time to catch up with his grandchildren, great-grandchildren. But look at it. They carry them, ferry them to Yaoundé, give them positions that they cannot even understand why they are sitting there.
What do you mean that they are ferried? They have drivers, they ferry themselves to Yaoundé. Most of them live in Yaoundé.
They are not coming there because they want to come, Mr. Leo.
No, but
Mr. Leo,
the National Assembly has been there for
yes,
long now.
Let's accept that he has been there for long. they do not go there because they want to go. I remember in the last parliamentary election, the people of the North did not want to vote him again.
Yeah, but he wanted to stay on.
He wanted to, but the people didn't want to. It all happened that it came from the party that he needs to be there.
Yes, but he wanted to be there.
Wanting to be there does not mean that the party, those who are to elect him, wanted him. So he was forced upon the people. That's part of ferrying him.
He ferried himself.
No, he was being ferried by the party. And since the party, in fact, party discipline in this party is more stronger than patriotism, the love for nation, he is back there. Not because the people voted for him, but because the mechanism that could bring him there brought him there. And that notwithstanding, when we look at it, we are not looking at the fact that he has continuously been going there. If he was going there and had something he could contribute, and we could say, okay, this man, having been in power for this length of time, has been able to do this, they would have been appreciating him. But he has been there for years and unable to give us one thing which we could remember him for. Okay. If that man dies today, for example, I'm talking precisely the president of the National Assembly. If he dies today, we will forget him like he never existed. With Niat, it's just few years that he came into power, into the Senate. But he is old that he cannot use that office to do anything anymore.
Senator Walang Ako says, Mr. Kum, your panelists should all learn and know why a political party works hardest to have majority in any parliament. Please, he says, simply put, politics is a game of numbers, and so think again. Good evening to you, Senator, watching from, I don't know whether you're watching from Douala or from Womb or whatever, but is that not also the problem, that politics is a game of numbers? And you said that it is happening because Cameroonians have accepted the situation as it is.
Cameroonians haven't accepted, but Cameroonians unfortunately do not really have a say.
Okay.
That's how I look at it. Unfortunately, they do not have a say, because if they did, we wouldn't be getting the results we get year in, year out. I don't think any sane Cameroonian would love to put somebody like Niat to be the Senate president, because at his age, there was a video I saw a few months back where he could barely walk. There's another video that came out of the Senate today. Why would Cameroonians want to put somebody like that who can barely walk? If he can't walk, it means he can't even reason. He can't even do anything by himself. So no sane Cameroonian will want somebody like him to handle such an office. Same too with Cavaye. Like I said, as a kid, I remember we had difficulty to call his name. But this is me, very old. He is still there as the Speaker of the House of National Assembly. So Cameroonians don't really want that, but they do not have a choice. They do not. Power is seized in Cameroon. It's imposed on people. Elections don't really count. Because if elections really counted, the people who are leading wouldn't be leaders today in Cameroon. That is my own perspective. Okay,
good evening, Mr. Liu, and all those on set. Everyone has spoken very well, but one of the problems in Cameroon is that we talk too much to a government that doesn't listen to reasoning. Cameroon needs action, people, for the love of the nation. Elvis is writing from Leicester out there in the United States, no, in the UK. Mr. Liu, good morning, and the guest this evening. When people from 50 years go on retirement and feel happy because you sleep well, why have people decide to spoil a country where their children and grandchildren will live, because home is home, no matter how much money you keep for them? But I tell you people the truth, the body needs rest. Is my darling Nijon Fundi older than those two people? This country needs deliverance. Why are the white men bringing us headache, high blood or heart attack, especially those who love this country, Cameroon? I told you, Pastor Ambe, the people will not understand. Pastor Ambe arranged for the deliverance. Thanks. Sisi is writing from Limbe. Good evening to you, Sisi. Jones writing from Bamenda says, good evening to you all in the studio. I think it's time for the Cameroon government and the separatists to be brought to book. They have taken the lives of innocent Cameroonians for granted for a long time. Government, okay, officials, okay. Good evening to you in the studio. Haha, our President Paul Biya does not want to suffer alone in that position alone. He will not want other old people to stay and be enjoying while he is suffering in that position. I don't get what you are trying to say. This one reads, good evening, Mr. Liu and Mr. Elvis Tayong. I told you Cameroon government is a stranger in Cameroon. We love our country, but the regime in place takes it away from us. Jean Clinton, writing from Douala. Good evening, Mr. Kum and the able panelists. Those two houses, the Parliament and the Senate, are idle houses. Those people have the right to be the leaders because they are good examples of idle people. You can't bring young people who are vibrant to lead an idle house. Most of them, writing from Limbe. Now, how do we try to evaluate what the presidents of, because we are talking about people who have been re-elected and you guys seemingly are not comfortable. Is it based on their balance sheets? Because if somebody is re-elected, it should be based on what they have done in the past. What can we put as the balance sheet of Cavaye Jibril and Senator Niat and different?
I don't even know if they have a balance sheet. Their balance sheet is blurred. They should hear very well. Blurred balance sheet. State budget wasted for no good reason. Now, Mr. Leo, I got a senator who's reacting to an issue of numbers and all the like. You know, when a country puts in place bad laws, they hang on the bad laws and justify their evil deeds as if they are doing what Napoleon left undone. Mbano, it doesn't function like that. We want to let them know that people are becoming more enlightened than the way they think. For those who eat fat from the regime and come to blow grammar from one direction to another. Balance sheet is not there. When the crisis started, we were expecting the President of Senate and National Assembly to have visited these areas because they pretend that they represent the people. They have never done that. They are covered with their areas, even if they are sick in their own corner. And we too are getting our own pains in our own angle. And they tell you they are working for which nation? Next point, when we look at them, and the main thing is that the country has tried to cage the brains of the senators and the parliamentarians. People who know what they are supposed to do have refused to do what they are supposed to do. Because the aspect of becoming stooges, whether you pretend to be an opposition party or not, has taken the center stage for all business activities in the Senate and in the National Assembly. It is a sacrilege. They are hearing, they are watching us and we are talking. When you sit, a senator or a parliamentarian who's enlightened should know that he should not be cajoled with money or cajoled with some positions. Look at the list. Let's begin with look at that of National Assembly. The first vice president here, talking, that one is already there. The other 5 or 6 vice presidents, you have only PCL and that gets another position under the vice president.
Yeah, we have here president of National Assembly. We have the. I
mean, UNDP came in as the only position under the second position of the vice president.
Vice presidents, yes.
The rest of them goes in for the level of questors. Imagine the other things right down. Look at the gap they push the other political parties right down. It means that it is a one-man's business in the Senate and the National Assembly. And they are blowing grammar and telling us about multipartism, democracy, and all the like. It is a total disgrace. What is their balance sheet? I thought I said sometime here that even Cameroon is not ripe for the position of running the upper house known as the Senate. We have seen how docile they had been. I think it's just Senator Kmer that I can remember, who has always been, you know, attacking, but one out of how many? What difference does it make? Sometimes they will rush here to give some things for IDPs and all the like, and it ends there. You will not also blame him because he too is trying his best. Sometimes you get Senator Ambela Muki, who also tries to come out, but the system where he operates cages him, and he comes out with limitations. You will not also blame him. He too is trying his own best and his own corner. The rest are sleeping MPs and sleeping senators What do you have here on the ground? That you have even young senators and parliamentarians who sit and fold their arms and mafia is done in front of them. And they tell us they want to represent us. I first of all know that I don't have a parliamentarian. I don't have a senator. So I know that I am an orphan. That one is for sure. Because if you look at what they are doing in, they discover that it is simply a Njangi house where they are calculating their booties, how it will favor them and favor their pockets, and their investments in the nation's capital, Yaoundé and Douala. That's why you see them carry out projects of building houses. Many have relocated from where they are to Yaoundé and they are buying permanent houses. Some are currently building as I speak now. They know them and I know them. They are listening to me. So at the end of it, you discover that it's a matter of the stomach and not for the people. You realize that some senators, even and parliamentarians in the northwest and the southwest, who know of the mafia still see it very okay. I mean, they still see it very okay until some come to justify that. No, you know, it's an election, it was free and fair. Come on, they should not be taken as fools. I think that we are at a level whereby this is an exhibit to tell you that those houses don't mean any good for the young, the women, and the entire nation. That's why I said that for the functioning of those houses, one thing is clear. One thing is clear, Mr. Leo, that if you see the way they function, you will know that we are not in the agenda. You cannot tell me the midst of crisis of this nation, Mr. Leo. Even if they are playing Njangi, if these people were intelligent, not because God has moved intelligence from them. That's why you see them acting ultravirus with errors from up to down. That even in the midst of the crisis, they could not pity even an English speaking to say, you take Senate and even National Assembly, so that let us try to quiet down this tension. It does not mean business to them, because their agenda is that they are lords over the English speaking. That's what keeps them very comfortable. I am sorry that it's a kangaroo house. Any senator who sees that parliamentarian thinking they has a defense, you have no case to defend. Just eat your money quietly and let us be as orphans. It's okay for us and by us.
Well, now I'll end this with you, Apostle Ambe Valentine Angwa. You see the Senate and National Assembly playing key or pivotal roles to trying to help shape Cameroon and solving its problems. Do we expect to see a surprise visit to the troubled northwest and southwest regions anytime soon from these houses?
When you talk about the Senate and the National Assembly playing pivotal role to shape the destiny of Cameroon, I'm yet to find out what they have been shaping for the past years. You know, you can never know the potency of a government until they face problems. You will never know the expertise of an expert until he is given an opportunity to manifest it. Cameroon has lived in this nation for many years. We have been in this for many years, and we have not had serious problems in this country. We were supposed to have a serious problem around in 1992, but John Fundi, as a political technocrat, managed to quell down the situation because of his temperament. When we had crisis once here concerning foodstuff, there was nothing that was of serious pressure. Now we have had the Anglophone crisis. This is the very first time the Senate of this country and the National Assembly are facing a major challenge. And this is the time we're supposed to have seen the skill and the aptitude of these particular bodies. But to be frank with you, for the past 4 years, these people have made us known that they practically were quiet in the past because they were incompetent, and they are still quiet today and they'll be quiet tomorrow. You will never know the strength of a lion until it confronts another opponent. When a particular house is not confronted with any challenge, Cameroon has not been the war-type nation like Rwanda, Sierra Leone, Liberia, where you will discover that such bodies were supposed to go into action and display their skill and their intelligence. We've not had such situations. This Anglophone crisis is the very first challenge that has come up in this country, and it has proved the indolence of the Senate as well as the National Assembly. For 4 consecutive years, we have been singing that parliamentarians have not mentioned the issues of the Anglophone crisis in the parliament. What has the Senate done? The Senate happens to be the upper house. They have not done anything either. Which means if a crisis can rock a nation for 4 consecutive years, and these 2 powerful houses in the country, decision-making houses, constitutional houses, law constructing houses are unable to carry out practical measures to even bring down the crisis to a certain level. They have been very, very dormant, very, very docile, and very inactive. Is to tell you that if worse things than the Anglophone crisis come to this country, we should not lean or count on the Senate or the National Assembly, because this Anglophone crisis has only come to prove the strength and the weaknesses of the Senate and the National Assembly. So counting on them is like sitting on a wheelchair and expecting to arrive your destination on time. It is absolutely impossible.
Okay. But the CPDM has confidence in them, that is why they were elected. But now we are looking at this issue of age, and we are looking at the capacity to deliver, because the President of the National Assembly has key roles to play internationally, because he also has to relate with other houses of national assemblies across Africa and the world, as well as that of the Senate. The Senate President is in number 2 person. Yes, in the nation. In case the President is not there, he is the one who has the charge to deliver the nation into a new nation. But those who are voting, I'm talking about their colleagues who are voting, it means that they see so much capacity in these persons.
Mr. Leo is
like, they are just receiving instructions from somewhere.
Mr. Leo is like we are supposed to say things and say them so plain, so that you should not ask us again the question.
Yeah, many persons are
we do have voters apathy in Cameroon, not because Cameroonians do not want to vote. That's not the reason. It is simply because most at times when people go to vote, after you must have voted, expecting to see results happen in the way you want it to be, you turn up hearing a different name which you never expected. And as a result of that, a lot of young Cameroonians, because I will be sincere in telling you this, Mr. Leo, the youths are close to 70% the population of this nation. And as a result of that, they have the voting power. But do you know, barely 10% of these youths go to vote? Why? Because they are discouraged with the entire system. So those who go to vote, who chooses them? They finally are just being appointed and placed in position. And I will tell you this, Mr. Leo, most of what we call voting in Cameroon is just a means to compensate individuals to partake in eating the national cake. They just struggle to compensate them, give them positions. I was looking at the structure of electing members of parliament in Cameroon, and I was looking at the number that come from each region. I was a little bit disturbed because I looked, Central has 29. I was asking, how big is the Central region that has 29? I came to look at the West. The West has 25 and Northwest has 20. I was asking, between Northwest and the West, which place is bigger? You see, with all that, you get to feel like there is a problem with the way in which we do things in Cameroon. It's just a means of compensating individuals. So I will not believe, nor will I sit on this TV here to tell Cameroonians that those who sit in those seats are the people that they elected. I heard Mr. Wallan saying that it's a game of
numbers.
Of numbers. It is good to be a game of numbers, but let it happen through elections. It should not happen through maneuvers. When the people choose you, then they have chosen you. And worst of it is that we do not choose you to go and represent your party. We choose you to represent the nation. If you have been elected by the people, you are elected to represent the nation of Cameroon, not your party. And that is where we have a problem, because you work based on party discipline and forget the people of Cameroon, implying that the people of Cameroon are of no importance to you. You just use them as a stepping stone to power. And that is where we have a problem. So it is necessary that if people want to contribute ideas on how Cameroon should be good, you should not sit in your house and tell us that it is a game of numbers. That game of numbers is where we have a problem. Yeah. You people have been having numbers for the past years. What has it added to Cameroon? What has added? What importance has it brought? Okay. So we are literally suffering today Cameroonians, I will tell you, Mr. Leo, I will say you should go and investigate it. I was in Bonaberi the other day around that kind of 9 something, going to 10. When buses were moving out, I saw where people were keeping their young people, girls and boys, dropping their cartons to sleep in the park there.
We know already.
That you okay is good. So look at the way young people are suffering, and you claim that it is a
they are busy looking for their positions and election when people are dying.
That is nonsense.
Okay. Good evening to you all in the station, Mr. Leo. Thanks for your efforts. Education, the people. As for this country, the citizens have no choice. Cameroon has been programmed, the leaders working for themselves, but nothing lasts forever. God bless you. All my regards to the kangaroo man, Edmond, writing from Kumba. All the same, we thank the head of state. Good evening to you.
The president of the government.
Yeah. Okay. No. That's not nice. Mr. Leo, good morning, and the guests this evening when you people. Okay. Good evening to you too. Good evening, Mr. Leo. All we need to understand about this country is that the country has some selected people who have no plans to this nation, and they are just struggling that we should be slaves under them, and all the courses is from the man from presidency. And Mendy Wesley, writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, Mendy. Greetings to you, Mr. Kum, Apostle and the Kangaroo Man. This country is really not well. Ever since I was born, it is still Cavaye as Speaker of National Assembly. This country needs God. Love your program so much. T-Style, writing from Muyuka. Good evening to you, T-Style. Good evening to you all in the studio. I really enjoy your program. It's like Cameroonians are under a spell. You can imagine that someone who is born in 1985 is unable to write a concours because he or she has come of age, yet Cavaye who became a vice president at the National Assembly since 1983 is still there till date. We really need an automatic explosion before this pet can be broken. Jude Agiabi, writing from Douala. Good evening to you. Atamaya Jean-Claude says, good evening, Mr. Kum and all the panelists on board. I am Atamaya Jean-Claude, writing from Cyprus. My contribution is that let Cameroon be left in the hands of God, because man cannot do anything to change the present regime in Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I and my family are enjoying the program of today. The Cameroon government should tell us how much this country. We are going to refund the money back to the buyer. Chin Chili Abigail Buni, writing from Douala. Okay, he's talking about selling the country. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Honorable Cavaye and Niat are okay by virtue of their age. With these kind of people continually being recycled in very sensitive positions in political offices, is clear indication that Cameroonians politicians are very unwilling to steer a drive for the good of its citizens. Ebenezer, writing from Bomenda. But many persons are becoming the more worried that there is a cabal that is leading the nation, or there is a group of people who are leading this nation that must only lead the nation, and a very little chance for young people. Some people were expecting to see people like Gerard Ngala bring a surprise, so other younger MPs.
I think the younger MPs themselves are comfortable with what is happening, because why didn't they revolt? They were there, and if they didn't like it, they would have said no. We didn't. We do not want this. So they are comfortable. Yes, and what I have an issue. I heard when we just started, one of us made mention that he was sure, he wished that they visit the English-speaking regions. And I've been asking this question: who are those parliamentarians? Do they mean to say that they do not come from these English-speaking regions? Do they mean to say even if they don't come from there, don't they have relatives from these regions? Haven't they seen anyone who has been touched by the crisis? What is their role? They were elected by a people to represent them. So what stops them? I mean, my problem with them is that they should forget their political differences and look at what took them there, look at why they are there, and focus on that. The SDF, CPDM, MRC, UNDP, and all of that will not resolve the Anglophone crisis. They, as members, as decision makers of the country, have to sit in a session and discuss the Anglophone crisis and come up with solutions, because they are representing the people from these regions. So if the old people cannot reason, does it mean that the young people too have been blocked not to reason? What is stopping them? So to me, they are happy. They know what is going on is their game. Let them play the game. We're watching. We're watching.
Okay. To you, the young parliamentary MPs, but can they cause anything? Because we understand that there was a meeting today for CPDM MPs and senators. That was it not to receive instructions or decide which candidate to choose?
No, you know that, you know the way the National Assembly and the Senate functions. Before a bill comes, they have been tipped. And when they are tipped, they always hold meetings, including committee meetings, especially in areas where committee meetings don't have opposition members in it. They hold opposition meetings, so you also have meetings before meetings. And these meetings are always geared towards putting in place firm instructions for the party's position to be maintained when they come for real business. I would let you know that for about 10 years I've been covering the National Assembly open and closing. Most of their issues are games well arranged before the time. Now, when they are coming out for election and they call ambassadors, the international committee to come and sit there, they sit and watch, they give an impression as if it's something that's just happening. Whereas the whole ball game is done. There are times they hold meetings midnight. They know what I'm talking about, parliamentarians, you know. I've accompanied some of you, and I see where you're holding those meetings, why I'm in your vehicles that we're talking, you know. They go and hold, you see they drive late in the night, some hotels around, they sit in a conclave. I said sometimes they hold right up to 3 a.m. just to strategize. So when they come, they are sure. So these meetings, they begin to weigh. If you look like you want to oppose in the subcommittee meeting, they start telling their friends, take care of this man. This man might. They start taking positions before they come for the real meeting. So when you have a kangaroo system that holds meetings before meetings, it means that the real meetings become a skeletal one. That's the fact in it. That's the fact in the whole show. So at the end of it, Mr. Leo, when I hear some of these parliamentarians defending themselves, God would handle their case. Because we begin to imagine that we're talking about the issues of young parliamentarians here. I know that they were not first mandated by the people. I understand the mafia that brought them into where they are. But if they even entered it by error, why can they not carry out a move that shows that at least they even know why they are there? Mr. Leo, young parliamentarians, because if they started agitating when they were there, of course, because each time they're holding the session, media is always there.
Exactly.
And the media will pick up the agitations. Imagine a country that is not moving, a country that youths are forgetting to have power. This is an election that goes without an iota of noise making. Those youths have disgraced us. If I thought they were even sent there by us.
That is why
they are a total disgrace.
That is why many persons expected you to go there under the banner of the CIAM.
No,
you refused.
No. We refused because we understood the mechanism.
Because you were going to
Mr. Leo, we understood the mechanism. If we had walked into this election, come rain, come sun, even you are saying we would not have changed anything. We are just saying that our problem had been to restructure the entire system.
At least you
get the point.
will have taken the
Mr. Leo, SDF, you know what SDF did. Unless you are telling me you are not aware.
You will have taken the
SDF made a move.
Maybe you are stronger than the SDF.
No, Mr. Leo. The indications SDF did is to tell you that that kangaroo house has been structured to work for one-party system.
Okay.
It's a one-party system, Senate and National Assembly.
Okay, very briefly.
The other ones are spectators.
Very briefly, we are going to talk about the demise of the former Tanzanian president who died yesterday. We talk very briefly and then we move on to the next topic for tonight. Africa actually mourns Pombe Magufuli, former fallen president of Tanzania. I'll start with you, Apostle Ambi Valentine Ngwa. Can you paint a picture if there is something you want Africans to stay back with about this true son of Africa? What would that be?
Magufuli is one of the rare African presidents that have proven to Africans that he has a body not just for Tanzania, his country, but for the continent Africa. Magufuli came to chart a different course in the African leadership. Magufuli came to decolonize the mind of most African leaders and to give them the understanding that African leaders can manage things for themselves. He's one of the selfless African leaders that came to power, and his leadership within the space of 5 years has been outstanding. He was re-elected last November, and unfortunately he passed away this March, which is a very, very painful exit to all Africans who knew what he actually did. A few of the things. First of all, what he did was that he gave free education to all government schools in Tanzania. Secondly, Jakaya Kikwete, his predecessor, had signed a deal with the Chinese to build a port in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam, that the Chinese will run the port for 99 years. Unfortunately, Jakaya Kikwete came out of power without executing that particular contract. He came, saw the fire, read it through, and then called the Chinese that they will cut it for 33 years. And then the Chinese refused, he cut it off. There is a mining company, a British mining company called Acacia. He arrested them for undervaluing the gold of Tanzania and charged them to pay 193 billion Tanzanian shillings. He also seized 250 of their containers at the port in Tanzania. Those are the things he did. He came to power and then refused to celebrate their national day and took 4.3 billion Tanzanian shillings to fight against things like cholera. He went to the general hospital and saw beds that were not in order and patients were lying down. He went to that place and then did a very serious work. He suspended all international trips for ministers, and then the tax exemption on ministers in his country was suspended. Those were the things he did that revamped the economy, and Tanzania moved into a middle income economy. If you look at the kind of work he did within the short period of time he came to power, it's a call for concern that truly Africa has resources. We keep saying that Europeans have come to Africa and exploited us. Let us say they took 70% of our resources. Can't we manage the remaining 30% to rise back to 100%? If at all the little that Tanzania had, he was able to manage it. Because if you look at it, all the trips, a short period of time, 5 years, he was able to drag Tanzania into a middle income economy. And he also refused the intake of the vaccine and insisted that they should deal with local drugs. Recently, WHO insisted that he should give the reports of the number of COVID-19 cases in the country, because the last report was 509 cases that were in the country, I think about 22 dead. Now he refused, he has stopped it. And then he never traveled out of the country to Europe. He died in Dar es Salaam, one of the hospitals there, the Richard Kikwete Medical Foundation. If you put all this together, you realize that the cost he reduced in the nation was what boosted the economy. He constructed bridges, he constructed roads, he did a lot of jobs in terms of infrastructure within 5 years, and he was re-elected last year, and then now he had 5 years again to go. The parliament had sat down already, negotiated for him to go in for a third term in office. He refused in advance. That's democracy. A selfless leader who has taken a short period of time is to tell us that Africa does not lack resources. That was the same thing that Thomas Sankara came in Burkina Faso in 1987. In a short period of time, he brought the Burkinabés to a position of understanding that they could wear the fabrics that came from Burkina Faso. He boosted up the production of wheat and cotton, and he refused. Magufuli also refused a $10 billion loan from China.
I remember.
$10 billion loan from China. If you look at now, our presidents in other countries are rushing to go and collect loans from China, while an African president has a different ideology. Now, those who borrowed loans from China are indebted. They have mentioned have never gone up. He refused loan and took the country into a medium economy. So the devil that is killing the bean seed within the bean seed. There is no colonial power tormenting Africa. There is this notion that colonialism has killed us. I think that what they left for us as remains, if it is properly managed. How do you explain that a minister would steal 193 billion? That's a money that can even send even at least 2 million children to school in Cameroon without any inconveniences. Now we are talking about a leader who came and then in a short while they say he died of heart attack. Me, that heart attack report there, okay.
Yes. What memories do you keep of this great African president?
Yeah, Mr. Leo, before I even get to start talking about that, I was a little bit shocked when I listened to Mr. Lindu, the opposition leader who actually ran against him in the past elections, claiming that over BBC that Magufuli actually died in Kenya when the vice president announced that he died in Dar es Salaam. And he is claiming that the man has been critically sick until he was flown out of the country. You see, those are the kind of people that are willing to sell the nation in order to make gains. That's why he's talking to a foreign TV. When you go back looking at the life of somebody like John Pombe, you want to celebrate a hero. You see a legend. I remember that this guy, as an individual, when he came to power, what a lot of people do not know, in 2015, this man, the president's salary is supposed to be $15 US, $15,000 US. He cut it and brought it down 4 times. So his salary was $4,000 US.
So everybody, the entire nation knows.
Everybody knows. So he cut that down to $4,000 US. That is something that is unheard of. Apart from that, the luxurious cars in which some of these guys were using,
the
ministers, he told them, no, if we have to build the economy, we cannot be investing in these luxurious cars when our people are suffering. He had to go for cheap cars. Then cut every travel, to ban all his ministers from unnecessary official travels out of the country. When he did that, some people normally got angry with him because they want to be traveling. Of recent, he seized loads and loads of minerals which some Chinese company was carrying out of his country, when he had banned that no raw material should leave his country. It must be processed in his country so that it can boost the economy. And most of these foreign countries which were the ones enjoying these raw materials, they got angry. They got angry, and you see, he made enemies with them. China and UK and some other nations, they got angry with him because he struggled to build his nation. And apart from that, Mr. Leo, when you look at the man, you see, look at the short time he has been in power. If you can remember the Tanzania we are talking about, there was a period of time that Tanzania was nothing in Africa. But within a short period of time, we are talking everywhere Tanzania. This is a person that, in fact, he actually made the world to know that the whole idea of the corona pandemic is indeed a pandemic, not a pandemic. Where he took pop juice, when that happened, came out positive. That was to prove that really individual for the sake of Africa was going to stick his neck. And it is because of sticking his neck that he died. I had some people say he refused coronavirus. The position of the vice president, he died out of, and he said this had been for 10 years over the bed. It took him in a kind of way, and he died. So, Mr. Liu, there are so many things to say about this man that if you keep talking about him, you want to, it's like we are making a god out of him. But he is indeed a legend for the African people, and I wish that we could have African leaders who could copy the style of this man, who could copy just a bit, a minute. If they copy just a bit of what he has been able to do for Tanzania, wow, our African continent will emerge in a short while. If in Cameroon we could have somebody who could think that we should not buy big Prados for ministers, who could think that all the traveling, Mr. Lee, I will tell you something. When he came to power, the travels to Commonwealth, because when they want to travel to Commonwealth before he came to power, 50 persons used to go to the Commonwealth. But when he came, he said, why all this crowd of people going to Commonwealth? He said 4 is enough. So he cut it down. 4 persons became normal. Yes. In the nation. And when he came to ministers, from 30, when he came and met 30, he cut down from 30 to 19. So officially, his government was made up of 19 persons.
We have almost 60 of them in
Cameroon. We have more than 60. And, yes, 65. That's the right number. 65 in Cameroon. That is where a small country. It's a small country. It's over 50 ministers. Go on top of the get to their they have more than 20.
This African is to come on.
I saw a servant leader and not a tyrant. I saw someone who had the interest of his people at heart, who was always going to meet the people in the communities, who never stopped people from meeting with him, who never blocked his ears to listen to whatever his people had to say. I wish many African leaders could copy from him. I wish they could understand that all of this was just about the people and not about them. It was just about the interest of a country and not the ego of an individual. Africa has every right to mourn this great ruler, this great leader, because he believed in his country. He knew where his country was, and he knew where he was taking his country to, and he did his best within the shortest time possible to take the country to where it was. And I think if he had been alive, the next 5 years, nobody would have recognized Tanzania. Tanzania would have been the next big thing happening to Africa. But unfortunately, what we wish is not what God wants. And his time came and has gone. So other African presidents, like my own president, should copy from such a person. I've not seen my president in my entire life. I saw him once during the 50th anniversary that he came to Bamenda. That was the first and last time I saw my president at close range. Until this moment, I've never seen him, and I will never see him because that opportunity would never be there. This is somebody who does not work alone. If you hear that the president is around, you have about 50 fleets of cars, just like that, accompanying him. What stops the president from meeting the people? What stops him from coming down to the people? So Tanzanians have every right to mourn. Africa has every right to mourn. Okay,
the kangaroo man, would you also say Tanzania was not a kangaroo system because of the fallen president, and that it is time not to talk about him, but to learn the things he did that moved his country to where it is today?
Obviously, it's time to learn. We are learning with very heavy heart. I've been mourning. I'm joining the country to mourn for 14 days, as instructed by the new president. And you could imagine me mourning the president of another country. I don't know. I keep asking God, why us? Why us? Where did we go wrong? I am still to hang on the neck of Apostle Ambe and the other men of God. They must explain to us where we went wrong in this country. If it means taking 90 days fasting, they will do. Because I know countries like Nigeria, South Africa, where you have a kind of troublesome leader, sometimes the men of God dictate to you, under the influence of the Holy Spirit, what you will do, or you hear from them when God gives them the message to act. I don't know what is happening to our men of God in Cameroon, because God, where did we go wrong? Was it an error that was born in Cameroon? Yahweh, tell me. Apostle Ambe, you people will tell me this story after the studio, after we finish this program. So, but if you look at it, Mr. Leo, I want to cue in, apart from his administration, I want to look at his availability, which is one of the major characteristics of a good leader. his availability. There was a time he was in church and played the drum. When I look at that video each time he's playing, I said, this is a leader. We have an assistant God in Cameroon. It looks like I see God, I feel God more than the man in the 2G. I don't understand how it functions. That Magufuli comes, he takes a basket, he's collecting offerings in church. This nation has been cursed. Apostle Ambe, you have work to do. Gather all the men of God in Cameroon, more than 10,000 if they are, plus Ethiopia, gather them from South Africa, to release us from this bondage. Because when I see Magufuli and his humility, I ask myself, how come? This is a man you could walk to him when he's strolling around with less bodyguards. Once you move to him, you see the bodyguards who want to stop you. And he will tell you, no, allow the person to come. And you will talk with him and he strolls with you while talking. And he's moving. Oh, we are a cursed nation. And that curse must be broken with Apostle Ambe and the National Association of Men of God, not these play ones who are only looking for money and tithes. I'm talking about the real ones like Apostle Ambe and his colleagues. Those are the kind of people we need. The rest are miracle workers and money monger lookers. Those ones had failed from the beginning. People are displaced. They come to your church. You are only interested in getting money. You are not interested in fighting hard spiritually. That let them go back to where they are coming for the government to take its responsibility. Magufuli, as I tell you, Mr. Leo, it is touching my heart as if it's my own born father who has passed away. But I think that Africa will ever live to regret this kind of person. That's why I am still investigating. When people say heart attack, COVID-19, it's still a far-fetched dream for me, because I understand that he had a lot of enemies from the outside world, and just that system alone, just like what followed Gaddafi, shows that it could equally be very possible for those kind of persons to move through and take him off the scene. Okay. I only pray the vice president, the new president does the same. But then, comparative-wise, we are cursed.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. I don't know whether I am not cursed here. I'm not cursed here. Good evening, Mr. Liu. We have a circle of very old and low-reasoning leaders in Cameroon, and until they, this country cannot change. Just imagine that I'm 36 years old today, and I answered the question, who is the Speaker of the National Assembly? My daughter today still gives the same answer of the same question. Etienne is writing from Bamenda. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. My regards to the panelists. Just like Apostle Ambe said, he's in a calm mood. I too am a calm mood. This evening, I do not want to spoil it with this terrible news, because it's clear right now in this country that anyone who gets angry at this government will develop high blood for no reason, especially because those in Yaoundé will simply laugh at you and drink their expensive wines and sleep in their big beds. Okay, so we all should just try to thank the head of state and wait for and is writing from Kumba. Okay.
Now we are thanking the president of the government.
Okay, oh, no. And thank you. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm enjoying your program. The parliamentarians and senators we have care only about their stomach, while the population is lamenting in poverty. Roland writing from Boya. Mr. Liu, as much as we condemn these parliamentarians, I also blame the state media. No, I will not talk about this media house, please. Good evening, Mr. Liu. My name is Princely. I'm watching from Muya. I love your show. And to the kangaroo man, I love him because he speaks the truth. Okay. Mr. Leo, good evening to you all in the studio. It's Elvis Brown writing from New Bell, Shell New Bell. Good evening to you, Elvis. For the Senate to vote an incapacitated president, it means the senators are comfortable. But for me, this country, Cameroon, needs recolonization. Good evening to you all. Zhang is writing from Boya. Good evening to you, my brother. Good evening, Mr. Liu and your colleagues in the House. This evening, I want to say a dead tree can't even support a fresh tree. That is why all the old people in the government can't ever stand for its citizens, because the adequate ability is not even there with them. Mr. Liu, I always say that there is no need to wash a black dog. George is writing from Kumba. Good evening to you. This is the mafia. The president of the Senate is supposed to succeed the president of the country in case the national president is incapacitated, and to rule for 40 days and organize elections. The system in power knows this and would not like a young and vibrant man to occupy that position for fear that he can easily unseat the president of the republic. Jones, writing from Bamenda. Thank you to Jones. Good evening, Mr. Kum. I think those old guys, please, old guys in power have gotten drunk from the alcohol they drink when they were still young in Cameroon. All thanks, okay? No. Junior is writing from Limbe. Good evening, Mr. Leo and your panelists. Mr. Leo, the two presidents are not elected but selected and imposed on parliamentarians and the platform of party discipline. Metro Sama Collins, writing from Kumba. Good evening. Good evening to you all in the studio. It's so sad for great-grandfathers to be re-elected to lead the legislation of the nation, and yet they talk about youth being the generation to change the nation without any fear, I would say. Okay, Albert is writing from Bamenda. We are going to take a short break. When we come back, we discuss on our next topic. Welcome back. You're watching Prime Hour on My Media Prime. We are now going to be talking about the increasing immorality in our schools, especially secondary schools. Every day we get information of very disturbing situations where either a young guy is having sex with a man, where we find 20, 30 young students gathered together to make love, and the stories are just so many. Apostle and B. Valentine, where are we, our children, yes, where are they getting all of this from? We all went to secondary schools, but what we get today is quite disturbing.
Yeah, I will start by quoting a biblical verse of scripture. It says, in the end, because iniquity shall abound, that means there will be an increment of sin on earth. Most of those things are orchestrated first with bad upbringing. We most of the times blame teachers in school, failing to understand that charity begins at home. We will hold parents responsible for any bad behavior. School can only amplify it, but the foundation has to begin with the house. That same school where you see those children misbehaving, there are other pupils or students in that same school who are properly cultured, who behave very well. It's not the entire school. It's a handful of students in that school who are acting ultra-variance, which means they have something to do with their roots. The reflection of a branch of a tree is based on what is in the root. So that manifestation is a byproduct of where they are coming from. And secondly, we live in an age where social media has exposed a lot of children. That's why my first daughter will never have a mobile phone. I mean a mobile phone till she's in the university. Because I do that deliberately as a means and a measure to protect her from being exposed to a lot of evils. Social media is a platform where every kind of rubbish is being exposed there, and those things are backed up with evil spirits. When children gain access to such information, it arouses their appetite for such very wicked acts. So you see them go to school, they will only have a company of children who will find somewhere to sit together, and then ideas start coming up, passions are developed. And then the bad part also is that when schools also don't maintain strict discipline, it creates an atmosphere for issues like that to manifest. Now, if a child goes to school and there is no intense discipline in that school campus, children go to school with matches. These days we hear of children killing their friends in school. Some go to school, kill teachers. Some go with tramadol. Some go with cocaine. Some go with Thai. And all these drugs put together also arouses the appetite of children to carry out such wicked acts. But you will go to blame the school very little, because why? Some children don't even reach the school. A child leaves the house, does not even reach the school. How will you blame the school where they have a ghetto where they go and sit down, carry out their activities, and then come back as if they were in school? Now, accountability has to be taken by parents to find out if a child who left the house reached the school that day, and what did the child bring back. A child is not too old to be, as long as you are a student, you are not too old in your father's presence or your mother's presence to be investigated. But this neglect by parents, we expose children also by leaving them watch TV programs. Sometimes you are far asleep in the night, a boy of 13, 14 comes back in the parlor or in the sitting room in the say 2 a.m. and is watching pornography. Those things are accompanied by evil spirits. When such desires are nursed to a certain level, there is no way they can control it any longer. The same goes with the opposite sex. Now, when these two opposite personalities who have been intoxicated by bad information, either through TV, social media platforms, or bad upbringing in their houses, if they come together, the inevitable must manifest. That is why we used to say, when preparation meets opportunity, there is a miracle. When children are prepared negatively, an opportunity or a platform is created for them to manifest, it is easier. We saw cases of children, bunch of girls and boys who were in a particular building. They go to spend their time, they take tramadol, they make love in classes even. You see children making love in classes. You watch on social media, there are sex videos everywhere, and children prop into those videos. When they develop such interest, is very critical. So I think we have to get back home. That is where the root problem begins. Start it at home, homework.
Apostle, Professor Mark Anthony, social media is tagged as very pivotal in bringing most of these children into engaging in some of these very disturbing actions.
Mr. Leo, it is true that social media has these terrible effects that we are mentioning here. But like Apostle Amber rightly said, the place where these issues are made from is from the home. If you look at it today, most of our parents have become too lax.
Yeah, but the social media is used in the house now. It's in the house that they use the social media.
Let me go through what I'm saying. You see, the children have become, in fact, parents at home have become very laxed. Most of them are busy with looking for money. They are chasing for money and allowing the children to train themselves. And as a result of that, most of these children get to embark in things which naturally they would not do if they were being cautioned. And as a result of that, you find them easily getting into phones. Some of them watch films because you have decoders that are everywhere right now. You have cable TV everywhere. They watch channels they are not even supposed to watch, which they were supposed to be controlled from watching them. And as a result of that, they are being indoctrinated with some certain kind of things. And then when you come back to the whole idea of human rights in our schools, there's a scripture in Proverbs that says that if you spare the rod, you destroy the child. If you spare the rod, which implies, it says that when you use the rod, you beat out foolishness from a child. So today it is a problem in schools because of UNESCO, which I want to say that is foreign influence on Africa, where we now give right to children to grow themselves and claim that a child is not supposed to be beaten as a right when the child does not know his left and his right. When they do wrong things, you have to allow them. Discipline in Africa had always been with a cane. Why? Because we believe that when we beat you, we beat our foolishness out of you.
In scripture.
Yes. And even at home, it has become a problem where today parents are struggling to follow Western influence by saying that children's right, we do not have to beat children. And you see a young child talking to the parents as if they are her mate or his mate. Mr. Leo, I grew up in a home where the least you'll be not only beaten but tortured, and When you go to school, there is anything that you do that is wrong, you will be beaten. They were not asking your parents to come out before they beat you, no. They get you well beaten in school. So there are things that you could not see us doing. You could not see children come to school and leave school and they are loitering around all over, because they saw academics as a privilege. And because they saw that as a privilege, they were investing themselves to get it. But today it is funny, where we have free education, but we have children who they spend their whole time in nightclubs. Some of them go spend their entire time in sex environment where they gather themselves and they are doing all kinds of terrible things. There is total moral decadence in our communities today. And worst of it, schools have become the place where it seems as if we groom the worst kind of people. When schools are supposed to be the most disciplined environment, we are shocked of what is happening. Every day in Cameroon, you must hear whether or you see a video coming from somewhere about young people who have been caught in sexual activities, or you hear information coming from this area where young people have gathered. All those things, smoking of what is tramadol, tar, and all that. Indian hemp even might not be that really effective like tramadol and tar. It carries you. So with all that, you do not expect that we should have the best. But where does all this come from? I am not going to blame these parents and these teachers without blaming even the government. The government of Cameroon has also played a part in encouraging this issue. In what way? Teachers who were supposed to be well paid to take care of students, most at times a teacher will be teaching in 4 different schools when he was supposed to be in one school taking care. A discipline master who is supposed to sit in the office and make sure he takes care of the environment is in the classroom teaching. And at times they teach for 14 hours. What time will he use in supervising the school? He does not have that time. And that is where we have a problem. Low payment. You do not pay teachers. They should pay teachers well. And when teachers are well paid, certainly they will do their job also very well. And apart from that, Mr. Leo, the state of economic breakdown and meltdown we have presently in Cameroon is one of the reasons why parents are unable to sit at home to take good care of their children. In our days, our mothers will sit and take care while our parents go to work. But now, mothers and fathers are out there fending while children are bringing up themselves. How do you expect them to be well brought up? They have to become morally decadent.
Good evening in the house. Charity begins at home. Lack of home training and discipline is the cause of all this. I think parents should sit up. This is Akwash Taylor writing from Mabanda. Mabanda is in Bonaberi in Douala. Good evening. All this misbehavior of students at school, especially sexually, is as a result of social media. Everything is exposed on the internet. Let the parents control the ego of their children, having the age of their children having phones. Good evening to you all in the studio. Most of the children now do what we call copy and paste. Victor writing from Douala. Good evening once again, Mr. Liu. It's Pastor Iteng again from Boya. Social media can't corrupt a child that is properly brought up in the fear of the Lord. Parents today don't beat children in the name of this witchcraft called child's right. The Bible says in Proverbs 13:24, spare not the rod and spoil the child. The Bible also said in Proverbs 29:15 that a child left in himself shall bring disgrace to the mother. You can't be wiser than God. When God says beat a child, he knows why. Yeah.
I am not going to say anything different from what Professor has said. Parents, we have failed our children. Community has failed these children. As parents, what parents fail to understand is that the school has just 8 hours with these children, and they have the rest of the 24 hours by themselves to be with these children. Now, if these parents actually followed up the education of their children, they are going to discover that these children are not regular in schools, because on the report cards, they mark their absences are registered in the report card. Some are given warning, and others you just see it there. So every conscious parent who takes that report card, and now these children have sequential report cards. So it's not like they wait till the end of the term or the academic year before they get the report cards. So when they see these absences, what do they do as parents? Personally, I've been attacked by a parent because I disciplined the child. And I told that parent that you would choose, either I own that classroom or you own the classroom. And as long as I am in that classroom, I would do what I want to do to that child, because the child is just like my child. So teachers are not magicians to know how you live in your homes. There are parents who have one bedroom. They do everything, all the shitty things they do in that bedroom that they share with their children. Is it the teacher's responsibility to come and say, no, don't have sex in the presence of your children? We know how mischievous these children are. Some of them pretend to sleep, and no child, excuse me, no child, even a 1-year-old child, is very alert when it comes to sex. So you parents having sex and saying that it's at night, the children are asleep, who tells you those children are sleeping? Those children are very malicious. They are seeing, they are watching. They keep an image of what they see mommy and daddy do at night. If they will not embarrass you, because some of them go to the extent of embarrassing you, like they will come and say, daddy, why were you beating, why were you climbing on mommy's body, why were you doing this, or why were you doing that? And you will laugh. The parents will laugh over it, not knowing that that's a strong signal that this child is giving to them. And then the community, like the video that was circulating, you discover that there is this particular house that children go to at a certain time of the day, and classes are supposed to be going on. What do you do? What did you do? Is it because it is not your child? Why can't you go into that building to find out what is happening? Not until when the gendarmes are informed that they come, and then people come out and they start giving testimonies. Or around 10, you see them going to the stores to buy bread, to do this. What did you do as a conscious parent? Growing up, I knew that every elder was a parent. If I did something wrong, how dare you even bypass an elder on the road without greeting? They will give you a knock on your head. They will go and tell your parents how badly brought up you are. But today, no, nobody cares. It's not my child, it's not my business. But again, you forget to know that that child that you say is not your business will meet with your own child and may have a stronger influence over your child. And at the end of the day, it is the whole community that is uneasy. So parents, apart from being so lax, the human rights thing too has come and has made parents to become lazy. You don't master what goes on in the West, but you want to practice it in Cameroon. How possible is that? How possible is that? In the West, they do not do corporal punishment, but they punish their children. If a child misbehaves in the West, they give you time out. Time out could be for 30 minutes, for an hour, where you're kept somewhere. You're deprived of something that you really like. But in Cameroon, that is not the case. That is not the case. We do not understand that. Parents do not understand that to them, human rights is, they have said, don't beat my child, so don't beat my child.
Mr. Liu, UNICEF is the cause of all this because they have removed corporal punishment from schools, and students think they can behave anyhow and will not be punished. Also, students whose parents hold big positions in the country cause a lot of ills in, and if you touch them, your way is condemning maximum prison. Okay, Jean-Claude Atamaya. Hello, good evening. I'm Ngala from Yaoundé. I thank you all for the great talks. You are creating much impact. All the talking and not in vain. On the other side, I just want to call your attention on some things that must be known. Every sensitive and key influential position in Cameroon are all masterminded, drafted, and positioned in the spirit realm. Us mere beings, we get just physical results, then we rank and remark them on media. Note that the least obstruction to that positioning, the regime will crash completely. So if we get our eyes open and talk out this positioning from the spiritual perspective, we will shorten the days of our talking on same topic on a daily basis. So God needs people to seek His face and stop these troubles. Thank you for your message. Good evening, Mr. Leo. And Copan is when they say education is the key to success, and you see graduates riding bent skins, Kamers, fake prophets, etc. Students don't see any future in education, so they don't want to waste their time and effort. They only go to school to satisfy their parents. Richard is writing from Bonaberry. Good evening to you all in the studio. Thank you very much for this important topic today. It is often said that if you don't teach your child good morals, society will teach him in its own way, which is often immoral. Though parents have a greater role to play, I think the government can also set a limit to how much access underage children can have on media platforms like Facebook and YouTube, TV, radio, church, and everyone has a role to play. I'm Clarice, writing from Log Besu. Good evening to you, Clarice. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Children these days are just something else. This is because social media has contributed a lot. For example, a child in Form 1 will be having a phone. Parents should control their phone from having phone as that age. Greetings to the kangaroo man. Good evening, panelists. At first, a parent will go and report the child to the teacher. Now that some punishment have been restricted, our children must grow up with this, and I don't support the fact students of secondary school should have Android phones. Binda Jackson, writing from Bamenda, I think that should be a topic for a day. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Parents are not doing their job. Some parents these days don't follow up their kids. The Bible says, Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. When you reprimand someone's he or she wants you not to do that to her child, right in front of the child. Charity begins at home. Daisy is writing from Kumba. The kangaroo man. Let's look at it from the spiritual perspective. The church, all of these children go to church. Is it that there is something that the church is not doing, or the parents are not doing enough of religious studies with them, or is it that the school that is also lax with this aspect?
Well, with the church, I think the church is doing their best, even if we have some kangaroo churches. But I think that we also have churches that are worth reckoning, which we must not deny that fact. The churches are doing their best. The few business persons are doing their own business ongoing, and sometimes even sometimes anointing the ways of some of these children, and anointing their ways, the ways of their parents, the ways of their sisters who come for deliverance and all the like. But there are just some cases that can be pinpointed, but it doesn't really suffice for us to conclude that the church is lacking in that. I think you bear with me that if the church was not even there, I'm sure the rate of immorality and crime waves and everything would have really been worse. People would have been even bold to move in front of you. Probably they slap you, they do anything with you, and they just go scot-free. So the church helps to put the consciences of people on their alert, so far as knowing that what you do, you have a payback, and what you do could equally be an influence of the devil, so you need to shun away from that. But I think I look at it more on the side of the causes of it, on the side of what they call foundational curses based on leadership. I repeat, foundational curses based on leadership. Now, I told you that when you have a leader, the Bible says leaders are chosen by God. I think man of God will surely, I don't know if I make an error, but he will correct. That leaders are chosen by God under normal condition. Now, but if you look at it critically, if you are chosen by God and you start going out of the ways of God, the things you do have a spiritual impact on the people you lead if the people you lead are not strong enough to withstand that negative spiritual aspect. That is clear. That's why you could see somebody is spiritually strong, but he's under a weak man of God, a man of God who is funny, but he still stands there, and then sometimes he realizes after some time with the revelation he gets, and then he moves away or he gets to correct the man of God. So it's very possible. Now, what do you realize? You see that we have a nation that the leaders have made it to be cursed, and the spirit of that leadership is affecting the generation. When you look at late Ateba Eyene, of course, his death was controversial. He's one of the members of the ruling party who had been very clear on homosexualities and the kind of cult that takes place within high-ranking government officials. And he was always categorical in all his media outings. Now, these are foundations you put that transmit a spirit onto the people you govern, unknowingly. Now, you realize that because of that, start asking the question. For example, I schooled in CPC Bali. Religiosity was part of us. Religious study, we go to church in the morning, we close, after prayers, we go to church. We had that value that was instilled in us by force. Now, look at the issue with the schools. You realize that religious study, moral instruction, that was supposed to be part and parcel of the school curriculum, is abandoned. I say it's cancelled. At the ENH, you're supposed to have moral instruction teachers. It's not existing, eh? Now, some government schools, out of the largesse of the principals, decide to bring in PTA religious to come and teach. The children don't take it serious because you all hear 4 papers excluding religious study, 2 papers excluding religious study. The government itself is a cult. Because for they themselves putting religious studies willfully out of their school program means that they have evil inclined spirit that is being transferred onto the people they govern. Yeah. Government is the truth.
Yeah, but
point number 2.
That is
Mr. Leo.
You are the one saying
Mr. Leo, I am saying it.
Yeah, we take exception to
yes,
that.
Time for everything is saying it because I come from a Christian background,
okay,
and I know how we had fought at the level of seeing if the government could even take cognizance of religious study. From day till today, you all see them exclude religious study to today. What do you expect that kind of nation to go? How do you expect it to grow? If mission schools were not even there to instill religious study, but it is still not very serious because even the children in the mission schools, like also in CPC Bali, knew that after all, the religious study was just for CPC Bali. But it's for you to go to a lower seat, you'll be excluding religion. If you want to go for concourse, you'll be excluding religion. So we're forced to take religion just for the sake of passing the spiritual aspect.
To say something on that, to add a point. In GBHS, Bamendankwe, where I came from, I created a Bible school club there. But in 2002, that Bible club was closed down by the principal of the school, saying that we are not supposed to run those kind of things again.
You will not blame it.
So question is, why should they do that? And today, no more clubs. Even the moment that they used to give for moral instructions
is not there.
It's no more there.
Right. So, Mr. Liu, just to learn, you realize also that, as I said, there is a spirit. That's why I say all those you don't need to go on retirement. We need God-fearing leaders, not those who practice telling things under the table by night and during the day they are talking different grammar. Now, look at it critically, Mr. Liu. I said that when you have leadership that lacks morality, is a problem. Now, how do you explain that people are killed, they are taken to an open square, and then dancing and jubilation is going on? You can imagine, I think when we were students, to see a corpse in fact, when you see a corpse as a child, you will not even sleep, you'll be dreaming, you have nightmare for the next 1 week. But administrative officials kill people in the name of terrorists. You take them to a square like the case of Kumba, where this is the second case we are finding because another one from Libya was brought there at Bisset Junction. Now another one was from Bonge, whatever they call General Spirito, is brought there. Now administrative official brings dead people. You put at the public. There are children, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, they are watching. And you see people jubilating. Do you know the foundation, what you are building in them? You are building the spirit of destruction and the spirit of murder. So those who see it and they are jubilating with corpses lying there, and you, the administrative authority, you are jumping too and celebrating with the soldiers. Look at the foundation. These are things that I said that as like for the crisis we're talking about, as we're taking for granted, and killing now becomes the order of the day. We are sowing a seed of bloodshed that in time to come, the killings of Mr. is the fact. In time to come, if care is not taken, you will have a generation that can move into your house, broad the light, and gun you down. No, you don't pray when you are not ceasing from the action, Mr. Leo.
The men of God.
You get the point? No, the men of, yes, Mr. Leo, men of God will pray. But how would their prayer be effective when the evil system of the leaders are propagating that?
Forgive.
Mr. Leo.
Forgive.
You tell me it's normal for a couple to parade there with broad light and children are jubilating.
Forgive. Love.
5 years, 6 years, 8 years, they are watching cops.
Let us preach love. Let us preach love, tolerance, and forgiveness. Yes.
The immorality in school, I blame the government as well and the teachers too, because it's not all right for a teacher to date his students. Male and female teachers date these children. When you ask these children out, what is the reason for asking them out? before you know it, you start having sex with them. You start giving them marks because of sex and all of that. Now, government, what is government doing? I think government has to revise its laws on the school, especially. There has to be an age limit. Since we copy everything from the West, in the West, minors are not allowed, adults are not allowed to date minors. If you get intimate with a minor, you are locked up in prison. Cameroon government should also make such laws, pass such laws, and keep to them. Because this government has the tendency of coming up with laws that are just there for decorations.
Okay.
So they should be hard on that.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to my daddy Apostle Lambe Valentine Ngwa and the rest of the panelists. My name is Ngu Franklin from Bamenda. To my opinion, it's about the environment, because most of these cases where we have students using knives on teachers and having sex in the classroom is common in some parts of the country. It's a problem of social behavior, and it originates from their parents. They can only emulate what they see. Copy and paste in the English zones are rare. God help us in this era where knowledge is irrelevant and has been replaced by jokes in the name of schools. Thank you, and I love your program. Thank you too. Mr. Liu, this is Malik writing from Douala. During our days, teachers were a value to us, as we consider teachers and elderly ones like our own parents at home. Now our children go wayward with the ideological knowledge placed on our children from the Western countries. Tell all the military men who beat up teachers for disciplinary actions on their children by teachers to watch out. Tell the Ministry of Education to write to the authorities in Yaoundé to create a security mobile wing for schools. Our schools will one day be porn cinema companies and not academic learning institutions any longer. Thanks for the program. Thank you too. Bonjour. Zéphorin depuis Bonaberry. La famille est la première école de l'éducation. Si notre société a des dérives aujourd'hui, origine c'est qu'à fuite des responsabilités, abandon des enfants par les parents. Nous devons savoir qu'au soir de notre vie, on rendra compte à Dieu de ses enfants, oui, qu'il nous a donné comme proposition: éducation spirituelle, morale, avoir la proximité auprès de ses enfants. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. This is Evangelist Vicky from Bamenda. Leaders are not chosen by God, but God says we should pray for them. The people choose their leaders. For example, King Saul was not chosen by God. Is it God that organizes elections? No. Okay. The first school that a child attends is that of mom and dad. Good evening to you all in the studio. Coach Ernest writing. Mr. Liu, the problem is not the age a child has an Android phone, but moral education given them at home by their parents. Some parents are not doing the job. Ebenezer writing from Tombel. Apostle Lambe Valentine Ngwa, let's look at the discipline in our secondary schools. Is it getting more lax, or what is not right with our schools?
Discipline is getting them more lax because you see, like what Madame Pachibel said, some teachers befriend students. And it's sometimes difficult to discipline somebody you befriend. And that's the reason why sometimes students can outrightly disrespect teachers and go scot-free. The other part is that there are some personalities in the society who've turned their children to idols. A teacher will discipline a child in school. The father is a military man, a government official, occupies a prestigious position in the society. He drives into the school campus and then slaps the teacher because he believes his position is superior to that of a teacher. I think laws are supposed to be put in place to protect the right of teachers. Yes. Teachers have a limited amount of right as far as their duty is concerned. But we fail to understand those teachers are the ones that produce almost every other office in the nation. From the president to the governors, the ministers are born from teachers. And teachers should be given a certain level of recognition. Laws of security, because they have put so many other laws for teachers except laws of security. They don't secure teachers. I've been in a case whereby a gendarme has driven into a school campus and slapped a teacher for disciplining the child. Such acts of lack of respect for teachers also give children swollen head. If a child believes that the father is a popular figure and a responsible person, I'm talking as a proprietor. I've told my teachers in school, I don't run my school based on imaginations. I run my school based on the principle of God's word. If God believes that the rod can beat hell out of a child, then I think the school needs rod. If you look in the past compared to today, the educational standard, the moral standard, the behavior of students and pupils have greatly, I mean, it has become something else as compared in the past. In those days, there were certain procedures put in place in schools that when you come out of school, you will not see, first of all, children, plaiting their hair going to school in those days. If you are a girl child, you will shave your hair. If you are a boy child, you will shave your hair. That was a level of discipline. And you saw people who came out from school that time, morality was a part of their life. But unfortunately, today, children are wearing dreadlocks to go to school. Some are styling their hair to go to school. When all those kind of social manifestations are in a child's life, they don't see the school as the only place where they can display. There are a lot of things around them that can push them to go to snack, to go to nightclubs. But if you know you are a student, that student mentality that was instilled in you when you were going to school in those days, you will know you are a student. But we don't know in between a student and a nightclub girl, a student and a street girl today, because when they are going to school, some wear trousers that have hole on the knee, they call it destroy. So the person can manage school and can manage a snack. Somebody goes to school with dreadlock. Your attire tells you that you are not only a student, you are something out of being a student. You can manage school, you can manage a snack. But when you know you are a student, your attire will tell you you are a student. And this attire is meant only for students. When you go to school, you will not start thinking left or right. There are institutions that children go to school with colored dresses, as if it's a university. When a child is going to school with such an attire, what do you think? In his mind, he's not seeing only school. Because when you go, while putting on uniform, if you enter somewhere with a uniform, it already identifies you as a student. But when you don't have a uniform on you, you can enter anywhere. Nobody will know if you're a student or not. So I think the place of discipline in schools, that standard that was placed in schools in those days, should be brought back. Secondly, parents should know that teachers don't beat their children to kill them. They beat their children to put them to order. And no matter the position organized in the country, a teacher's right must be respected. That is his office. And once the teacher is in that office, he is doing everything possible to earn a name tomorrow for being competent, that he has done his job so well. He's not doing it because he wants to satisfy you. Children don't go to school to be satisfied. They go to school to be educated. And once you go to school education has a lot of things in place, not just teaching you in class. There is a moral standard they have to instill in you. There is an educational standard they have to instill in you. There is a standard of respect they have to instill in you. And the teacher is not just there to teach you 1 + 1. The teacher is there to teach you how to honor the old, how to respect your mates, how to relate with the society. So that's why we'll talk about pedagogy. It's something that teachers are studying in school, not just to come and teach children how to do mathematics or English language or moral science. They teach them on how to coordinate the behavior of children.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leonard. I wish to thank you people for this wonderful program. The parents, teachers, churches, and government has a role to play in upbringing of the future generations. Western values has destroyed African morals and values. Patrick Ngwozi, writing from Oya, hello, Mr. Liu, cannot mean let the government stop those Android phones and let them use the normal phones. A Muslim president put religion in the GC when I was growing. Well, I'm happy our Father in heaven will judge us. Cici, writing from Limbe. Good evening to you, Cici. Very active viewer there. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Please allow the Pan-Africanist on your right to express his mind. He's trying to do that, but you are saying the pastor will pray on such ills, which is not correct by me. He's making a point. Bless is writing from Chang. We need prayers. Or you don't think that Cameroon needs prayers? Good evening, sir. Greetings to Apostle Ambe and everyone in the studio. Please, no one should blame the teacher for any reason. The teachers didn't ask the children to go practice sexual acts. Today, the bad behavior of students is favored by their parents and government policies. Note that a black child don't understand a simple language. We always need hard measures. I'm Davison, writing from Betwa. Hello, Mr. Leo. Oops. This issue of caring over a child depends on the environment. I think the issue of communalism is not practiced in French-speaking parts of Cameroon because they have given more powers to their children. Okay, Jane Kwele, writing from Douala. This good evening, Mr. Leo. As a youth, I think sex education should be taught at home and in school. Also, we should be told on the importance and effects of teenage relationships. Let our parents make us friends and not us make them friends. It's not easy. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and the crew. I must admit you are doing a great job there, in as much as some parents are not doing their best to guide the children. I strongly blame the state for all the nonsense that happens in schools. Accepting to delete corporal punishment in schools is as dictated by UNESCO or whatever is total madness. Stop photocopying from the West. Poor pay for teachers is another dimension. In fact, Cameroon is just a trap. I am Tibok, writing from Guzang. How is the Guzang market doing? I hope it's vibrating. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Let's continue to pray for our children. God will see us through. Okay. I asked earlier on that we should pray. This one says, now, Professor Mark Anthony Ngwa, we are talking about prayers, we're talking about parents, but the parents themselves, they need to do more.
So much, Mr. Leo, so much. You see, Africans have a way that they actually groom children. I love what I heard from somebody there who said that we have allowed European influence over African cultures. And that is actually what is happening, where we just copy things because we saw them on TV, we want to practice them. Maybe because UNICEF came and said you need to do this, we just go on doing it without actually looking at our environment. We are Africans and we believe in the philosophy of Ubuntu. I am because you are. We also believe in the fact that it takes a village to raise a child. So raising a child is a communal responsibility, not an individual responsibility, not just a parental responsibility. In Africa, when you have a child, it is the community's child, it's not your child alone. But you look at it where a parent finds it difficult to see another parent today discipline his child. It is a problem. It's a serious problem. You claim that maybe somebody is beating your child because of jealousy. Because I've heard that. I remember there's a day I was talking on a particular platform on this particular issue. One lawyer was bold to say he cannot allow a neighbor to touch the child because the neighbor might beat the child out of jealousy. I said that's stupidity to think like that. That is because of the environment. So when I heard some participants saying that it is the environment. Africans, wheresoever they are Africans, they have the same culture. The problem is the dimension of influence that has come from the West over a particular culture. Don't forget, when it comes to the Anglo-Saxon culture, when the English came to Africa, they did something. They did not actually enter into the communities ruling the people. They allowed the people to govern themselves while they control you from up. But when it came to the French, they came in right into your house. They destroyed every culture. Your point, because so when they came, they struggled to destroy even the culture you have right in your home. That's why they talk of direct rule. Okay. The French were doing a direct rule. So that's the reason why we have a disparity today between the way you have English communities and Anglophone communities and Francophone communities, people behaving differently. So, but as Africans, we have one culture, which is communal life. We have want to live together.
Fika Pashibel, what's the way out of the current impasse?
I think parents need to have genuine conversations with their children. Because if we keep blaming the West, I think one thing we have learned from the West is that attitude of listening as parents. Parents need to have genuine conversations with their children. And there is no age limit in having this conversation. most parents, it is funny that nowadays we have most parents who shy to talk to their children about sex. So parents, sex is no longer a taboo. If the parents don't tell their children about sex, the society will tell these children about sex. The internet will show these children how to even go about this sexual intercourse. So parents should learn, especially mothers. When your child tells you that when I see this boy, I think I like this boy, mothers, stop telling your children, shut up. Have a conversation with this child. It is normal for your daughter to have a male friend without any emotions attached to it. It is normal for your son to have a male friend without any emotions attached to it. Have that conversation with them. But let them know there is time for everything. There is time for everything.
There is time for everything. Paul Ngowe, writing from the United Arab Emirates, says, good evening, Mr. Liu and all the panelists. Your topic is very important. God bless you all for your wonderful contributions. Noel, writing from United Arab Emirates, this one says, parents help us at home. Children stop to believe in fallacies. Thank you. Mohamadu, writing from Yaoundé, says that good evening, Mr. Liu, I'm just coming in. The causes of indiscipline are we important laws and implement them in our institutions, forgetting that it can't work in our context, e.g. banning punishment. Parents careless about the informal education which starts at home. The risk is saying that if you can't, you don't educate your child, the society will do it for you. There are drugs consumption amongst the students out there. Yes, way out.
Well, the only way out for now, you know, I always tell you that I take with the kangaroo system. When the government puts in place laws, for example, bringing back religious study and moral instruction and making it compulsory, that will be the first step. 2, protecting the rights of teachers. Meaning that there should be a law enacted by the National Assembly. Unfortunately, these other ones are sleeping MPs. If you have the real ones, they will tell you that all of them pass through teachers.
Of course.
And so there's a law. If you touch a teacher, you are gone. Nobody will dare. Even a gendarme, whatever your commander, you will not dare.
Or the Joe.
Or even the Joe. They will just like, this one is a different thing. So there should be a procedure where you can get teachers if they are found wanting. Now, if you get this kind of scenario, the next thing is that government should get in to put in place a mechanism of regulating social media. In the Arab countries, social media is greatly controlled. Even in China, they regulate social media. I mean, in China, they have all the mechanisms it takes. Censorship. You don't just watch anything at random as you're in China. No. Our friends who are there, they tell me that even the Facebook, they are simply managing to take it through VPN or whatever. Yeah, they said, but in China, it doesn't move. The Facebook that we're talking about here. So, if we have the Ministry of Regulatory or Telecommunication, what is their use? These are things you and the tele-regulation companies would have put, agency would have put in place. But unfortunately, it looks like they too are sleeping ministries. So everything in the country is sleeping. So the way forward, Yaoundé, all of you go on leave because there's nothing you can offer. All of you all retired, nothing you can offer. Leave A2G, just go. New brains will come in. And then this new technology will be put in place. You will see Cameroon, even in your graves. You will know that you plunge us into hell.
Okay, we want to thank you all for coming, and especially those who sent text messages. All of you who wrote to us, we say thank you for participating. We want to thank the production team, Eli and Desmond, Bertrand and Noel, and to you, Tabi, Tambe Bryant, who is supervising our work here, and not forgetting you out there in Kumba, Didi Banderas. Good evening to you. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.
School.